Welcome back, beautiful students, to the YouTube channel of Violet Bright Academy. I am your English tutor, Komoto. On today's video, we're going to be mainly focusing on answering question papers. And so we're going to focus on this one question paper, which is the 2023 paper 2 question paper. Now, I'm not sure whether it's the May-June question paper or the November question paper, but as soon as I read out the question, hopefully you guys can go and either download or look for the question paper, and hopefully you'll find out whether it's the May, June, or November question paper. Another thing to note before we move along the video is that I will be going slightly off to my side because I want to be reading the question that is noted on my notebook. Hence, I will slightly be going to the side, so please don't be alarmed by that. I'm just reading the question paper. So today we're mainly going to be focusing on the essay question for Life of Pi, right? Because this is a question that they like to show or they like to ask majority of the times when it comes to Life of Pi, and a lot of students, don't know how to precisely answer an essay question. Hence, I'm here to help you. So the question for the 2023 paper 2 essay for Life of Pi is as follows. It says, Pi must rely on faith in all its forms to overcome the ordeal he experiences. Critically discuss to which extent you agree with this statement. Right? So now, mainly when you mark students' answer, you find that they don't understand which is the statement and which is the question that you need to answer, which is the first part of the problem. You need to understand that they give you a statement. After giving you a statement, there is a question that you need to answer. And you'll find that some students will answer the statement instead of the question. So firstly, you need to separate the statement from the question. So the statement is when they say, Pi must rely on faith in all its forms to overcome the ordeal he experiences. Now, the question that you need to answer is, critically discuss to which extent you agree with this statement. Right? For you now to be able to answer this question, you need to understand Pi and his standing with religion. This takes us back to the first initial chapters, which is chapter 1 to chapter 50, where they tell us about Pi's relationship with religion. Now, if you have read chapter 1 to 50, you will know that Pi practices 3 main religions. He practices Islamic, Christianity, as well as Hinduism, right? He was born into a Hindu religion, learned Islam, and practices all 3 of these religions. Now, if you read chapters 1 to 50, you'll know how he gets introduced to each of these religions. So we do know that religion plays a big part of who Pi is and how that affects some of his decision-making skills and how that's going to help him. How that's going to help him make certain decisions with whatever he's going to experience while he's been, stranded at sea for so many days, right? But that information only goes a certain way in terms of how to answer the question. Now, the problem that many students face is how to answer the question. You have the information, but majority of you get lost in the source, okay? You get lost in understanding what the question is asking you for. That question is not asking you to tell us whether Pi is religious or not, or whether Pi believes in Christianity or whether Pi believes in Islamic. No. The question asks you to critically discuss to which extent you agree with the statement. Okay, so you must agree with the statement. It's not saying do you agree or do you not agree. No. We all agree that religion plays a certain role in Pi's life. We know that because in chapters 1 to 50 we are told that. So you do automatically have to agree with that statement, right? So no learner should be caught saying I don't agree or I agree. That's crazy. Okay? No. You automatically agree because we have that chapter 1 to 50 telling us that he is involved in religion. Now, what we need to do is now critically discuss to what extent you agree with the statement. You do agree with the statement automatically, but to what extent? Are you saying, yeah? Your answer is it saying, yes, 100% I agree. Or I agree to some extent. Or I agree 50-50. Right? So you must tell us to what extent you agree with this point, right? As soon as you tell us what extent, that is part 1. So your part 1 should start in a way of saying, okay, I agree to some extent, I agree to no extent, or I agree 100 full extent that Pi must rely in faith, all forms to overcome the ordeal that he experiences, right? Then after saying that, you must tell us why you agree to that extent. If you say, I agree 100%, you must put the facts in. Oh, well, he's Christian, he's Islamic, and also he is Hinduist. And at that time, you don't just have to, when you're desperate, you rely on all forms of religion. And this is mainly because, he's a person who is already informed about all these religions, so he must rely on all his forms of religion. Or if you say, I only agree to a certain extent, oh, that's well, because he also has to rely on his humanity to a certain extent, so it's not just religion. If you say to no extent, you would have to say, oh, maybe I don't agree to no extent, and this is mainly because I believe he has to rely more on his survival instinct instead of his religious instinct. Do you understand? So you must give us a reason as to why you are saying 1, 2, 3, 4, or to what extent you believe this is true. But make sure that you section your answer in 1, 2, 3 parts. And then after 1, 2, 3 parts, remember we have the introduction, we have the body, we have the conclusion. The introduction is you telling us to what extent you agree with the statement. The body is primarily you giving us facts as to why you agree to that extent that Pi must rely on his faith, right? And then the conclusion is you closing off saying, well, this is exactly why I believed to this extent. I also gave you the facts, and hence that's why I believed, right? So all of this information is